Alright, hello again. In this video I want to talk about color grading. One thing that I'm always noticing these days when I watch a movie, especially a modern blockbuster movie, is the color grading of the movie. If you don't know what color grading is, I'll give you just a basic crash course. When a movie is finished, when it's right near the end, when it's shot and edited, and they may even have added visual effects and sound effects and music and stuff like that, then they will usually do some color grading. These days it's mostly all digital, so they can manipulate the look of the film when it's done. You will see this in almost every major movie production. Every major Hollywood blockbuster usually uses some form of color grading to some extent. You can usually see that kind of in the overall look of the film. The color tinting, it's usually kind of a cyanish, greenish sort of tint these days. It's sort of a popular thing. And usually a newer film will have one finished look, but they might also go back to older movies and change those after the fact. And sometimes they'll change the look of the film for a DVD or Blu-ray or 4K release, as is the case with the movie I want to talk about in this video, which is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Jason Lives has been out on DVD numerous times, but it's only been out on Blu-ray once. If you've seen a movie as many times as I have, then you probably noticed straight away that there was something off about the look of the Blu-ray. It had the same sort of greenish, cyanish tint as a lot of modern blockbusters. If you compare the new Blu-ray with the older DVD releases, I'm talking the very old DVD releases, some of the very original ones, you can immediately tell the difference. So today I wanted to ask the question, can we, with very basic video editing software, revert those effects and make the movie appear the way it looked back in the day? Alright, so what I've done here is I've prepared two clips from the movie in Adobe Premiere Rush. Most of you may be familiar with Adobe Premiere Pro. It's one of the most popular and commonly used video editing softwares in the entire world. Adobe Premiere Rush is basically the sort of bare bones version of Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a very good, cheaper, simpler version if you really just want to do some basic video editing. You just want to edit some clips and you just want to upload them quickly, and you don't need the full editing suite. But that just kind of proves my point. My point is we don't need a lot of fancy editing tools to achieve something really good here, or at least make it look a bit more natural. So what I've done here is I've prepared two clips in Adobe Premiere Rush, and it's the forest scene, the paintball scene. It's got a lot of luscious greens, and they're wearing these camo outfits, which are perfect. And then I've also got the scene right at the very end of the film where Jason is in the lake. Spoilers. And in this case, I'm always referring back to the original DVD. So what I've got here is a brief clip from the Blu-ray release and a screenshot from the original DVD. In this case, this is from the From Crystal Lake to Manhattan DVD box set, because that's one of the ones that had the sort of original look for the film. And I've got this forest paintball scene set up here, and then I've got this ending shot with Jason in the lake there. And if we compare it to the DVD release, then you can immediately tell that there's a drastic difference. So in Adobe Premiere Rush, what you can do is pick one of these very, very simple editing tools up here on the right. And you've got one for color. You've got different presets here, but I'm not going to be using one of those. We want to sort of fine-tune the look of the image. So I'm going to click on Edit instead. And under Edit, you can see a lot of different tools here. It's very similar to editing a photo in the RAW format. If you've ever tried doing that, it's a very, very similar process here. So you've got control of exposure, which is how much light has sort of entered the camera, almost as if they've should have more light in the camera when they're shooting the scene. I don't want to mess with that too much right now. Contrast, that is the basic contrast between light and darkness, of course. Highlights will only affect the brightest parts of the image. So if you want to blow up the sort of very brightest parts only, then you can do that. Shadows, of course, affects only the shadow areas, the darkest areas of the image. You can pull them down, or you can actually brighten them up if you want to. Not going to be messing with that. So here's where we get into the really interesting stuff. Here we got the color temperature, and that is basically how warm or cool you want the overall scene or image to look. You can see if I pull down the color temperature of the scene, it'll gradually sort of start to look more bluish, almost as though they're in a winter landscape rather than summer. And if I pull this up, it'll gradually start to look sort of like the Sahara Desert or something. We don't want to take it that far. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to pull it back just a tad. I want to look at their skin tones in particular here, and their sort of combat fatigues. And if we pull this back, just say to -11, and we can compare. We can click this button here, turn off color settings, and we can compare. It's a very slight difference, but you can kind of tell that there is a slightly cooler appearance. Consider their skin is already looking a little bit more natural, at least in my opinion. But it's still a very subtle thing. So we're going to look at color tinting as well. And color tinting is where you change the overall sort of color atmosphere of the scene as well. You can sort of pitch it more towards green or more towards pink. And green might be good if you actually want that sort of forest look or that fantasy look. You can tell if I pull this back, it's going to be very, very green very quickly. It doesn't look very natural at all. But if we increase this gradually, then you'll see, again, the sort of pink hue in their skin, the sort of brownish tints in the trees behind them will come back. You can exaggerate this way too much. But again, if I just start gradually and we'll just work the slider up a little bit, maybe anywhere between, say, 15 and 20, right around, no, let's try 20. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Again, we can compare what it looked like before we made any alterations to the image and after. So that's our before and our after. And I think this is already looking a lot more natural. You can tell by the skin tones, you can tell by the trees, you can tell by the armor fatigues, the kind of brownish colors here. Again, original Blu-ray, on edit. It's kind of a subtle thing, but once you get used to these kind of changes, you'll notice this a lot more. And I think this is already looking a lot more pleasing to the eye. Of course, we could go in and, like, I don't know, up the contrast just a tad if we wanted to. And just give it kind of a pop. I'm sort of hesitant to do this stuff, but I'll increase it by 5. Again, I don't really want to mess with the intention of the director of photography or the director's intentions. But while we're here, I mean, experiment, have fun. It doesn't hurt anyone. Again, I'm not editing the entire movie this way. This is just a video to kind of prove my point. I just want to see what can be done with very basic editing software and what we can achieve here. So yeah, I'm honestly pretty happy with the look of this scene already. Maybe I'm going to pull up the highlights tab. Just a tad. There we go. Very nice. I think this is much, much better already. I don't know what you guys think, but I think this is much more pleasing to the eye. Now, I should mention the original DVD actually looks a lot colder in its color temperature, meaning it looks more bluish. You can kind of see the sort of bluish tint there. But I don't know if we want to take it that far. We could pull down the color temperature even further, but I don't know how far we want to take this, because in some cases, the DVD release of a movie will actually look a little bit garish in comparison to a Blu-ray. And that is because with a Blu-ray, you're not just gaining resolution and sharpness, you're also gaining color information. And that means that if you compare a Blu-ray release of a movie to the DVD, then the DVD can kind of look flat and garish. And that's because there's just not as much color information there. So basically, there's more subtlety in the colors of a Blu-ray or high definition release. So you want to be very careful with the color temperature and not take it too far. So maybe around -15, maybe around there. Again, maybe I could pull this down a little bit more. I don't want that sort of bluish color in the, I don't want it to look like the dead of winter, and I don't want their skin tones looking sort of ghastly pale either. So I'm pretty happy with this edit, honestly. You see, in just a couple of minutes, we've already been able to fix the scene up pretty well, I think. So this is looking pretty good. I think we can move on to the next shot here. So the next shot is from the very end of the movie, and it's this one of Jason in the lake. And as you can tell already, there is a huge difference between the DVD and the Blu-ray release here. DVD is a healthy bluish color, whereas the Blu-ray is looking green, sort of cyan. It's got that very modern Hollywood look, which I tend not to like. In some cases, I do like it actually, but depends on the movie. So what I'm basically going to do here is I'm going to just pull down the color temperature all the way to begin with. But when I do that, that's going to affect all the colors in this clip. And we don't really want that. So maybe we should just pull it back a little bit, because as you can tell, he's actually wearing yellow gloves. There's still a hint of sort of olive green in his clothing and stuff like that. So we don't want to take it too far. So maybe minus 80 here. What we can do then is we can introduce a little bit more of that sort of pinkish color in the tint. And that will actually shift the blues of the image, blue colors, more towards a natural. So you can see how they're already sort of shifting from green to blue. Can you tell by that little slider there? It's a very gradual change, but it looks a lot more natural to my eyes already. And we can take this very far and make it sort of, make it sort of purplish. If you look at the original image here, it's actually looking a little bit purplish there, but we don't want to take it too far. Again, if we compare this to the DVD, then it's still not looking quite right. Now, one of the problems with these color gradings is that sometimes they'll actually lose so much color information that no matter what you do, you can't gain it all back. And that's very unfortunate. But what we might do is up the vibrance, meaning sort of I think it's sort of related to saturation. It's kind of a more subtle way of saying saturation, I think. It doesn't affect the overall image in a very dramatic way, it's just a very subtle increase. Again, I'm no expert on these things, but that again proves my point. You don't have to be to kind of play around with these things. So yeah, now we've got a little bit of that sort of yellowish color, but what we might want to do is increase some of the exposure, maybe, or just highlights. Maybe increase the contrast as well, because this image is just, I really like the way it's composed. It's actually you got this light here from the lake, and it sort of gradually got this gradient that gradually becomes darker and darker and darker. And I really like the way that looks. So let me just pull off the highlights just a tad here. Move them just a tad. So let's just compare right now what we have compared to the way it looked on the Blu-ray itself. So that was the Blu-ray, and that's our edit. That is already looking miles better, in my opinion. I think we've already achieved a much better look for this scene, because you can tell that not only is it more naturally blue, of course, but you can also kind of tell that sort of gained back some of those more naturalistic colors in Jason's gloves and his shirt, and all these little details here. So yeah, I'm really liking this. I don't know. Again, we can refer back to this DVD. Maybe we actually want to brighten this a little bit further. So maybe we want to just pull up the highlights, or maybe even the exposure just a tad. Let's go to exposure 1. I think that's type in 1. There we go. Maybe just up the contrast to 40. Okay. Let's see how that compares. Yeah, it's actually. And again, now it's a more cool blue color. If we wanted to, we could introduce more of this sort of these pinkish tones, and we would get more of that sort of. You can kind of tell it's very subtle, but it shifts more towards that pinkish, purplish sort of color. So if we compare the two now they're more in line with each other, I think. So Again, that's taken it very, very far. I don't know if you really want to introduce that much color tint, but if we're being true to the look of the DVD, then yeah, I'd say we're much closer than ever before. And we've got that gained resolution and that gained contrast, so we're actually looking, I think, much better than the DVD ever did already. Let's compare it again. Just turn this on and off. It's just drastic. That was the Blu-ray, and that's our edit. It's just a drastic difference. Let's compare this shot of Jason's eye as well. If I were to do this with the entire movie, which I don't know if I'm ever going to do this, but let's just surmise that I was doing this with the entire movie, then I would, of course, edit probably shot by shot, and I would look at the scene as a whole, and I would sort of refer back to the overall look of the scene, because you want consistency between shots, and you want consistency across one scene. It's very important. I would probably not have this scene with Jason's eye be quite as contrasty or dramatic, but just for, let's just compare this shot to, and this is pretty crazy. Look at the difference there. That's the original Blu-ray. That's our edit. Blu-ray, our edit. It's drastic. I mean, if you look at Jason's mask here, it's a vastly different look. And I don't know about you, but again, this is a very dramatic edit. It's a very simple and very blunt and very dramatic edit. I realize that, but I just kind of wanted to show what's possible with video editing software these days, because when I was growing up, this stuff was not possible at all. And even if it were possible, you'd probably be working with DVDs, which have a very limited resolution and very limited color information as well. Again, this is a very drastic edit. I realize that. I probably wouldn't take it quite this far if I were, looking to really keep this for myself. But I think I've sort of proven my point in this video. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. It's been very interesting, and I can think of numerous films that would benefit from this treatment, both newer blockbusters and older films that have been given this strange color treatment recently, like The Fellowship of the Ring and Terminator 2, and I don't know why this trend persists, but yeah, I'm just sort of here to say that you don't have to accept the look of the films as they are. There are always ways to make the image more appealing. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and yeah, that's just a very basic little thing. If anybody enjoyed this, I'd happily do this with more movies as well, but I think YouTube are kind of stingy about this thing, so hopefully they'll approve this video, because I haven't actually shown any actual footage from the movie with sound or anything like that. This was more just a kind of a editing thing I wanted to show you. And again, I'm not working with Premiere Pro. If I was working with Premiere Pro, I'd probably have a lot more control of the image, a lot more nuance, a lot more detail, a lot more things that you can tweak. But I'm on a budget, and I wanted to kind of show you how much you can achieve with very, very basic means. And I think this stuff is fascinating and really fun. I'm a very visual person, always have been. So yeah, that's just going to do it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed this little process, and I will catch you in the future.